So this is 8.3, administering fitness tests. So just to start off with, then we're going to look at my client and who they are and their profile, just some brief details. So their name, Jarvis Chater, date of birth, 1st of September 2002, they're 18 years old, height 6'3". They weigh 75 kgs. Their fitness level, they're a National League athlete, meaning that they have to maintain a high level of fitness, and they play basketball at quite a high level in National League, as I said. So their levels of fitness and different components will be specific to basketball, and at a decent level. So then moving on, then looking at the tests that I did on my client. I did 6 tests. One of core muscular endurance. The sit-up test is a great one for this. This is participant does as many sit-ups as they can in 1 minute, using the correct form and having some kind of weighted object that they can slide their feet underneath, in order to prevent them from going upwards. And normally, if we weren't in a COVID setting, that would be me holding their feet down, but obviously we had to do so over Zoom calls, so a weighted object worked well. So then we also did upper body muscular endurance as the press up test. Essentially it's the same thing, but just press ups in 1 minute. Make sure to be clear what the correct form was so that they're doing it properly. Yeah, so this is a great one for COVID because you can do it at home and it doesn't need really any equipment. Now we also did the test of flexibility, using a sit and reach test. So in this test, the participant sets up a tape measure alongside next to them, next to their feet, and it starts their feet at about 1 foot, or 30 centimeters, and they reach forward as far as they can to touch in front of the tape and give a measurement of how far they could reach. Now normally the sit and reach test would be done with a box, which is a good measuring tool, but again during COVID we weren't able to use this. We also did a test of stability and balance doing the Stork standing test. This is when a participant stands on one leg, with their opposite leg touching their knee, and with their hands on their hips. They then, when they're ready, they then go up on their tiptoe on that one leg, and they are timed for how long they can stand like that. And actually it's a lot harder than people think. But yeah, so I made sure I was talking to them and showed them the positioning before doing it. We also did leg muscular endurance, doing the squat test. Again, same thing. Participant does as many bodyweight squats as possible in 1 minute. And we used a chair or some kind of thing like a sofa so that they have a good level of how far their bum should go down, before they can come back up for the squat. So we have a good measure for that. Again, making sure they're using the correct technique, their back straight, not bent, in line with their bum. Yeah, so the equipment there is chair and a sofa. And lastly, we just did a test of power, which is the broad jump, or a standing 2-foot jump. So this is, they set up a tape measure along the floor and start at 0 and jump with no run up, but they can bend their knees and swing their arms, to generate as much power as they can, and to land. And where they land, they then measure, using the tape measure that they set up, the back part of their foot. Yeah, so what they need with this is a tape measure and at least 5 meters to jump, 5 meters of space, in order to do this test well. So then, moving on to why we use these tests, the justification for using each test. So overall, mostly the overarching reason for using these tests is COVID related reasons. a lot of other tests, equipment and facilities and space, we weren't able to get or be able to do a good measurement of, unfortunately due to COVID lockdown restrictions. So all of these tests that we used are all able to do in the home, with not too much space and not too much equipment, while also still giving us a good idea of their fitness levels. So then the component of fitness, flexibility, was the sit and reach test. Justification for this, as a basketball player, it's important to maintain a high range of mobility in all the different joints, in order to change directions fast and to generate power through your body. It's important to have that flexibility, especially in your lower back and your legs, which is what the sit and reach test does, which helps us to assess this. However, this test doesn't give us a full overview of the flexibility of the whole body, but still gives us a good idea of the legs. If we weren't in lockdown, we'd probably use maybe a gynometer, different types of equipment to measure different types of flexibility. So moving on to balance then, the Stork balance test is the one that we did. So again, all of these justifications for these are in a basketball mindset, as this player is a high-level basketball player. So balance is key in basketball when maintaining composure, when shooting off the balance, or maybe going and absorbing contact. Balance is key in order to get off the right shot and be able to make your shot when off balance. The test is a good test, however, it doesn't really show balance in everyday kind of situations. But actually in basketball, you're often jumping off your toes, so this is actually quite a good one for that, for basketball. So then moving on to power, we use a standing broad jump or the broad jump. Again, in basketball, using power in your legs in order to jump is extremely important for being explosive. And this test can show how far they're able to jump and generate power from their legs, which is again very important in basketball for getting rebounds or going up for a layup or a dunk. However, normally we would go for a vertical jump for this kind of measurement, but this requires a lot of space and a lot of equipment that we didn't really have too much access to, so we went with the standing broad jump, which is still a very good alternative. So next component of fitness was the upper body muscular endurance, which is the press up test, 1 minute test. Again, this is great for coronavirus restrictions, as it requires a very much small amount of space, and also doesn't really require any equipment. And it still shows us a very good idea of your upper body muscular endurance. And it would normally be used anyway in a lab or wherever. So this is a very great test to use, and allowed us to do it in the COVID restrictions, and actually a very valid test, perhaps compared to other ones. Now the abdominal muscular endurance test, the sit-up 1 minute test. This test is great. It requires little equipment, and is quite a simple technique, which is done well. We had to use the weighted object, which perhaps may lower the validity of the test, and also making sure to critique the form may also affect the reliability and validity, but again, still a great test to use in these coronavirus settings. So the last test we used was the leg muscular endurance, which is the squats 1 minute. Again, very good for this coronavirus restrictions. Not much space needed at all. Not really any equipment. And this is quite a good accurate measurement for the leg muscles and the leg groups, which again is a very important very important muscle group for basketball, and gives us quite a valid measurement for their endurance in these muscles, which is very important. So then just an overview of these test justifications. Due to having to do them in the coronavirus restriction, we had to do these over Zoom and over a live thing. So actually taking the measurements, a lot of it relied on personal eye. So not quantitative, but they were quantitative results, but it relied on human error basically. So there's a lot of room for human error. So this could definitely affect the validity of all of these tests, as well as the reliability. You may not get the same result twice, especially with the tape measure ones, with the jumping and the flexibility. It's quite difficult to get the exact measurement only using your eyes. And in a lab, we would normally use a specific string, put it right there. You can see exactly what the measurement is. But unfortunately, like I said, the circumstances we find ourselves in is kind of what we had to make do with. So the reliability and validity of a few of these tests could definitely be questioned. With these tests, it was more a matter of practicality rather than validity and reliability. So moving on then, reasons to defer or terminate the testing, just so that we're prepared. I was prepared to, if there were any of these things, to terminate for health and safety reasons. So impaired breathing, if they started not breathing right and feeling out of air perhaps, then it'd be wise to terminate. An overly high heart rate, meaning that they feeling discomfort in their chest, getting chest pain, and in their heart, try not to work their heart too much. This would be a reason to terminate. Abnormal blood pressure reaction to exercise. Now this would be hard to do in the COVID setting because we're not there measuring the blood pressure, but again, if we were, this would be a reason to stop it. Any other injuries sustained, maybe doing the jump, if you roll your ankle, then possibly we would say don't do any more jumps. You don't want to injure you further. Personal emergencies. So for example, you're in the middle of the tests and you get a call that a family member has gone to hospital, and they really need you, or they've fallen and they need you, then this would be a reason for terminating the test, and other miscellaneous reasons that may mean that the test cannot continue. So then going into the risk assessment for these tests, it's very important to carry out a risk assessment before these tests. So when doing this, we looked at things that you could trip or fall over on the floor. So controls for that would be making sure the floor is clear and there's not anything that could obstruct you or get in your way. Feeling sick or overworked, make sure that they have enough water and that you have eaten at least 30 minutes before, and are not going to get stitched basically if they have just eaten, but make sure that they have eaten in a decent time before, so they have the right energy levels. If they feel sick, then make sure to stop, like we talked about. If they pull any muscles, or a hazard would be pulling muscles or injuring any muscle groups, it'd be important to warm up and stretch before, as well as cool down well, which also leads into injury from not exercising properly. It'd be important to warm up and cool down. When jumping, sorry, the video is about to run out, so I will continue in the next one.